Hi there. This is Bentley here, and I want you to pay extremely close attention to what you're going to learn in this webinar. It is taking me a long time to figure out exactly what was going on with time management, but now that I have found the secret, I want to share it with you. Time management is a hoax, and in the next 45 minutes or so that I'm with you, I am going to show you exactly why time management is a hoax. We have been duped into thinking that we can manage time, and that is so far from the truth. And if you believe in time management, how many out there have actually been able to get control of the time and manage it wisely? If you have, then I would be more than interested in listening to what you have to say about it. But quite frankly, having studied it, I know there's no such thing as time management. Why do we hear so much about time management? Well, quite frankly, it's a business. I mean, if you look on the internet and you look on, go on Google and look up time management, there's all kinds of people out there that will teach you how to manage time. And the number of books that they've written, I went through on Amazon and just, typed in time management books, and I actually stopped at 50. There were, I don't know how many more out there, but I got, you know, to 50 and I decided, well, that was enough. So it is a business. And those out there who try to convince you that you can manage time are really selling you a bill of goods. There are even books out there specifically talking about time management for lawyers. Again, I went on Amazon and stopped counting at 15 of these books. To be honest, I bought a couple of them, but to be very truthful, they all pretty much say the same thing about how you can manage your time. And as I go through this webinar, I want to share with you some things that I learned that none of these other books seem to really teach. Oh, they may have hit on it a little bit, but they've never really seemed to master, if you will, the subject. And I'm not here to tell you that I have mastered the subject, far from it. But what I want to do is share with you what I have learned, let you take this information, and if it's information that you find beneficial, that's great. And if you don't find it beneficial, that's fine too. Hopefully, though, it will start to change some thinking, and you will start to see where you can get away from time management. Now, please don't despair, because there's no such thing as time management, but there is a way to get more productive time. And that's what we're going to be teaching you this afternoon or this morning or whenever you happen to be listening to this webinar. I want to introduce myself uh, and give you a little bit of background as to why I'm doing this. I'm Jim Thompson, and I practiced law for a little over 26 years and then was fortunate enough to be able to retire. And after retiring and playing golf and getting bored and all the other stuff that I got to do, and then again, was looking for some other things that I could do to maybe help people, if you will. I met a fellow by the name of Bob Berg, and Bob Berg wrote a book called Endless Referrals. I attended a number of workshops and seminars that Bob sponsored with other folks such as Zig Ziglar when he was alive, Brian Tracy, John Maxwell, a number of different people. And I started to really assimilate this information. And as I was doing that, I came to the conclusion after talking to a number of lawyers that although lawyers say they want referrals, they do very little about getting referrals. So I went ahead and I wrote two books. One is the Overruled, and basically that's why lawyers don't get referrals from their clients. And the second book was, which came after that, is why most lawyers fail at getting referrals from other lawyers. And when I was teaching these methods and some of the things in these books to lawyers, I was getting pushback, quite frankly, from a lot of them saying, Jim, what you're saying about getting referrals, we agree with, we like it, it's great stuff. And let me say this, not all that stuff came from me. Probably 99% of the stuff that I put in these books came from a lot of other people that I just assimilated and felt that I had an obligation to share. But so when this started happening, and it was really, I guess probably in mid-December, I really said to myself, I'm getting older. I'm 73 years old. I can't be doing these workshops and going out and talking to lawyers and talking to law firms much longer. So how can I deliver a message that I want to get out to the lawyers? And I came across this way of doing webinars and another program called Thinkific. And I am going to be sharing with you a little bit later what we discovered and how we can share programs with you to effectively teach you how you can get more referrals and do it in a time frame that is yours. Now, self-serving a little bit on the why. As I said, lawyers were telling me that they didn't have the time to participate or to do the work that I asked them to do in these programs. So therefore, even though I would give them a program or teach a program, they weren't getting things done. So I went about trying to find a specific way that you could find more time in your day. And we're not talking about time management. I may, during the course of this webinar, say time management, and I apologize for it, but it's been so ingrained, if you will, in my psyche that I will say it occasionally. But I want you to think that there is no such thing as time management anymore. There is productive use of your time, which I'm going to teach you, but there's no more time management. And in having said that, if I can show you how you can get 1 or 2 more hours a day to do the work that you need to do to get more clients, to build your practice, to bring more money into your firm, then I have succeeded. So I hope you will stay with me during this entire webinar. And at the end, I'm going to share some things with you that I think you will find very, very beneficial. And I've also got a couple of gifts for you at the end of this webinar. So again, please stay with me for the entire webinar. We all know what the problem is. It's very simple. I'm sure that everyone out there can relate to this. We have all tried to juggle time. And if you're like me, we have not been very successful in doing it. We try to hold that time. If we could only grab some of that time and pull it back. But obviously we know that we can't, so we have to look elsewhere to figure out what we're going to do. So Jim, I'm sure many of you are saying out there, well, since you're telling us all this, you obviously must have the solution. Well, before I give you the solution, I want to share something with you. What you see on the screen, the 1,440, some of you may know what that refers to, but I would venture a guess, because I didn't until I started studying this, is in essence the number of minutes each of us have every day. Nobody has any more, nobody has any less. We all start with the same. So what we need to be thinking about is how can we make the most productive use of those minutes. Now obviously we're talking about the minutes in the workday, the 8 hours or the 9 hours that we want to be very, very productive in our time, but also other, evening hours and things of that when we want to do social events or we want to be involved in boards and community activities. We need to be productive with that time too. But basically what we're going to be talking about in this webinar is being productive for the time that you spend in the office, be it 8 hours or 9 hours. Hopefully, when we start and you start doing this and looking into this and start practicing what I'm talking about, you won't be spending 9, 10, 11, 12 hours at the office every day. You'll be able to go home for dinner. But really, what we are really talking about from here on is going to be changing your mindset. If you want to get a hold of time and make time more productive for you, you are going to have to change your mindset and change in a way of doing things that's going to allow you to be and have more productive time during the day. This is where it all begins, in the planning stage. Without planning, you are never going to be able to get control of your time. So from this point forward, I want you to be thinking in terms of how are you going to plan your day. And I'm going to give you some secrets that will help you to be more mindful that you do have to start planning every single thing you're going to do during the day. Okay, Jim, you said you were a trial lawyer, so obviously you know all the things that go into your day and what you have to plan for. And every lawyer I've ever come across has all kinds of things, scraps of paper, sticky notes, post-it notes of things that they need to put in their day, that they need to plan. And again, here is the problem. We have all these things that must be done in a given day or a given 2 days or even a given week. And how do we make sure that we get the things that need to be done? Now, I just said a magic word, the things that need to be done, and I'm going to talk more about that in a little bit. But it's a complex situation. It's difficult. How do we know what are the things that we have to get done? So, and I've seen this where people will have a to-do list with 40 items on it, and they'll just cross off items helter-skelter. They'll go down those items, and to be honest with you, with no thought of what items are the most important items to get done. All this sounds great, Jim, but here is the problem that we see. With all of the items that are on our to-do list or our or posted notes or all this, how do we prioritize these? That is a problem. How do you put these items or the items you have in priority? How do you prioritize what the items should be? I'm so glad you asked, because what I am going to do is teach you a foolproof method on setting priorities. And when I show this to you, it is going to be so simple, you're going to wonder why you never had seen this before. Okay, when it comes to priorities, there are really only 3 priorities that you need to be concerned with. And I know I probably, if I was in a workshop or a seminar or teaching a course right now, I'd get a lot of people just looking at me like, sure, Jim, 3 priorities. Yeah, right. I have priorities coming out of priorities coming out of priorities. But if you bear with me, I'm going to show you absolute three priorities you need to be aware of. And if you're aware of these three priorities when you're looking at your to-do list and scheduling them into your appointment book, then you will have no problem prioritizing your day. Your first priority needs to be that which you will get in trouble for if you don't timely complete it. Now, I want to take a little bit of time to talk about this because there's a lot of components to this. But for instance, if you're a trial lawyer, you know you have certain deadlines to meet. Obviously, statute of limitations, but obviously a judge said he wanted a brief on his desk Wednesday morning, or you have to respond to a motion by such and such time. These things are the areas that if you don't do them, you're going to get in trouble. Now, if you're a transactional lawyer, obviously you got to prepare for a real estate closing, or you've got a client coming in on Wednesday who is going to have the contract that you're preparing or the incorporation papers. But whatever it is, these are things that if you don't get them done, you're going to get in trouble for. Now, I know I'm going to get questions on this, so let me try and answer some of the questions that I think I can anticipate. And it's simply this. You've got, say, 4 items on your to-do list. On Sunday night, you got your 4 items on your to-do list that you got to figure into your appointment for Monday. Okay? So you're looking at those 4 items. Now, here's the thing. You've got 4 hours, say you've got 3 hours left on your that your appointment for Monday, your appointment book hasn't filled up. Okay. Now, I also realize you may have 4 items that are which you think are going to get you in trouble if you don't complete them. Okay. So now maybe you have 3 hours and you got 1 item that's going to maybe take 2 hours and 1 item is going to take 1 hour. So now you've already filled up your 3 hours. You still got 2 items on your priority list, right? That if you don't complete them, you're going to get in trouble for. Well, now you got to go back and prioritize again. Okay, so which of those items are you going to put or make an appointment with yourself for Monday? And again, what are the items in order of importance that if you don't get them done, they're going to get you in trouble? And you've got a motion that's due, a responsible motion that's due. You've got a brief that's due. You got a contract that's due. Now, you need to prioritize those things. So if you don't get them done on Monday, are there any items you can push over to Tuesday? And if you look at that and say, okay, I got these 2 items that are going to take 3 hours on Monday, and there's 2 items left, can I push those 2 items over to Tuesday? And hopefully you can look at your slots and see what you have on Tuesday that haven't been filled in, and you can fill them in that way. So now you're thinking a little bit ahead, not just on Monday, but Tuesday and maybe even Wednesday. So now you've taken those items that are the ones that the 4 that are going to get you in trouble if you don't do, and you actually have scheduled them an appointment. Okay? Are you with me so far? Thinking about this. Now, we all know, as lawyers, things are going to happen. Emergencies are going to come up during the day, and you're not going to get certain things done. For instance, and one of the things I want to make sure I cover with you is I want you to be planning your day the night before. Because about what I'm about to say, if you plan your day the night before, like I'm suggesting, you've got Monday's calendar with all your appointments. You got the things that you need to get done on Monday there. And you're not working off your to-do list to do that other than taking those items on the to-do list and putting them in your appointment calendar. Now, we all know as lawyers, depending on type of practice we have, but we get there to the office at 8:30 or 8 o'clock or whatever we get there, and the secretary comes in and at 9 o'clock she says, Mr. Jones is on the phone and his kid got arrested last night for DUI and needs your help. Well, you're not a criminal lawyer, but Mr. Jones is one of your best clients, right? So what are you going to do? Well, you're going to get on the phone and you're going to call your buddy who is a criminal lawyer. And that's going to take maybe an hour and a half out of your day, because you got to call your buddy. You got to make sure you get in touch with him. Um, you call your client back and say, okay, I got my friend Jamie, who will be handling the criminal matter. Here's his information. You two connect. Or depending on how you connect them. I mean, that's again a whole different subject. But so all of a sudden, your Monday, that 2-hour time slot that you had set up for preparing a brief that's due on the judge's desk on Wednesday, doesn't get done because you don't have that time slot. So here's the thing. What you're going to have to do is look and see how important is that brief. Now, you may set it up the first thing in the morning because of its importance, or you may have set it up because that's when you have time to meet with your law clerk or whatever. Now, if it's an urgency thing that you got to get it done today, you're going to obviously have to move something around. Okay, something that's on that daily schedule, that you're going to move this into that slot and move that other slot down. Now, I would suggest, because I know you're going to say, well, by the time I'm done, my calendar is going to look like, scratches, scribble, and all this other stuff. I would suggest that you actually get a number 2 pencil with an eraser on it and keep your calendar, your appointments in pencil, because we all know there is going to be change. Now, again, I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just making a suggestion. If you got another way of doing it that's going to work better for you, I would certainly say go ahead and do it that way. But the bottom line here is you've got things that are set on your calendar. Now, obviously, you're flexible enough to move some of those things around, because some of those things on Monday, you might have to move over to Tuesday. Okay, so now you got to go to Tuesday, and look, you got things scheduled on Tuesday. Maybe you got a couple hours open on Tuesday. You can move one of those things over to Tuesday. Now, I know some of you are looking at me like, yeah, that sounds so great in theory, but it's just going to be impossible to do. The thing's going to be, I don't have the time to do it, Jim. Well, here's the thing. If you start doing it, okay, it'll become a habit. And you'll find ways to make it easier and easier and easier to do. Don't be of the mindset, well, it's impossible to do, so I won't do it. Try it. And if it works for you, great. If it's not working for you, don't just say, well, it's not working for you, and go back to the way you were doing things. Adjust. You may have to adjust. But the bottom line is you've started getting a hold of your projects, of your day, by virtue of being more and more productive. Now, the next area that comes into play as far as a priority, I'll just label as money. And that can be anywhere from making sure you got the bills going out on time. It could be attending a bar function networking event, an after hours, or it may be attending a section meeting, something that's going to make you money. Now, I know you're going to say, well, yeah, Jim, I had these other 4 priority items over here that were priority. And so now you want me to take some more items off this money list and make them a priority. Well, yes, but I want you to think of it this way. Again, the networking, the bar events, probably already on your weekly calendar. Something like that, where there's a specific date, specific time for something you've already probably scheduled in on your weekly calendar. So that's probably not going to be the problem. The networking event, something like that. The billing, okay, when are you going to get to the billing? Well, hopefully you've got some type of time management system so you could automatically bill your clients. But if you don't, and you are still, hand billing, if you will, and filling in and typing up the long bill so the client knows everything you've done, well, you're going to have to do time for that. But the important thing here is I want you to understand, if you aren't making money or aren't doing things to make you money, such as marketing. I know that's a terrible word for most lawyers, but let's face it, if you're not marketing, you're not in business long. So money is the marketing aspect. I could have put money and marketing together, but I want you to think of money, because most lawyers don't want to even think about marketing. So with the money goes the marketing. Um, and again, you're going to have to fill in certain things. It may be that you have to do billing on a Saturday. This depends on what your schedule is. But here's the thing, you've got it scheduled. You just don't have it on your to-do list. And, it gets pushed back and pushed back, pushed back. When you know that one of your items is, billing Mr. Jones, and does it get done on Monday or Tuesday, whenever. Maybe you can push it off till Friday. Just how much of a priority is it? So you got to start thinking in terms of the priority. When I talk about the family and your personal coming third, and I don't want to hierarchy them. Obviously, your family is very important, but I'm talking here about the family things or the personal things that you have to get done on a particular day or in a particular situation. For instance, you've got well, maybe the best example is your wife tells you last night that, by the way, I want to remind you that our anniversary is tomorrow. So you put that on your to-do list. So you get to the office and you go, well, is this one of those family things, or is this something I better do, or I'm going to get killed for not doing type thing? Okay, but I'm talking about, your daughter may have a recital, and it wasn't planned. You didn't know about it. You didn't put it in your weekly, I guess for lack of a better term, weekly to-do list. So this comes up, and so now you got to make room for that, and obviously that's very important. That's what I'm talking about as far as family goes. But you got to make a hierarchy and be ready to move things around, and that's basically what you're going to have to do if you want to be successful. I want to talk about a system, and before you look at me and go, I don't want to even think about a system. I've heard about systems. They're hard to do. They're complicated. I don't have the time to sit down and figure out a system. This is probably going to be the simplest system you have ever heard of or come across. We're going to talk a little bit about the to-do list. And quite frankly, when I'm talking about your to-do list, I want you to be thinking in terms of not loading it up with a lot of items like I've seen a lot of people do. I would think, and again, this is your own particular preference, but I wouldn't put any more than, say, 10 to 15 items at the most at any one time on your to-do list. And what I'm going to take you through is your to-do list and how you're going to use your to-do list to get those items on an appointment with yourself. This is your first tool in this system. There are only two tools. So again, I told you it's a very simple system, but some of you may have picked up that I am not really in favor of using a to-do list, and that's not true. I want you to use a to-do list. I just want you to use it in the right way, and that's what I'm going to show you. But I want to back up just a minute and say this. What I'm going to show you has to do with paper to-do list, and the other tool is paper. But you can do this in any way that works for you. Most of you probably are doing this type of thing digitally, an Outlook or some other program where you have your task or your to-do list and you have your appointment calendar and everything else. So my point here is this is the way I want to show you. Please don't think this is the only way. Please take it as, okay, this is the suggested way of doing it, but take it into the system that you happen to be using. But there's really only two tools that you need. This is the to-do list, and the other item the other tool that you need is an appointment calendar. Now, I'm going to talk a little bit about this appointment calendar, and this is, don't worry about the dates because it has nothing to do with the dates. But this is a Monday to a Sunday calendar with time blocks for each day. This happens to be time blocks for every quarter of an hour. I've seen them with half hours. I've seen them with just a block for that one time slot, say 9 to 10. Whichever, again, works for you, that's fine. This is just, again, an example. But this is the key to what I am going to be showing you. And I want you to be thinking of this. What you will be doing is making appointments with yourself. Some of you may have heard that before, maybe in a different light, as far as, make an appointment with yourself to go work out or make an appointment with yourself to do something else. This is where you're actually going to, on a daily basis, make appointments with yourself. And I'm going to share that, or how to do that, in a simple way. And the key here, the absolute key, is to look at your to-do list. And I'm going to go through that in a minute, and take those items on the to-do list that you have to get done on a priority basis. Again, I'm going to share that specifically with you, but I want you to start thinking, oh, this is what you're going to be doing, Jim. You're going to be using a to-do list to set appointments with myself, and that's exactly right. Okay, here what I've done is just taken a page, a Monday through a Thursday, a page out of an appointment book. And again, dates don't matter. We've got Monday through Thursday. It happens to be June 19th through the 24th. Doesn't matter. All that matters in this one is that you have slots to put appointments in. This one happens to have slots every 15 minutes. Okay, again, by way of illustration, what works for you, works for you. What works for me, works for me. If you're not totally sure, then try this method, using the paper. If you are using an Outlook or something else, try it there. The key here is this. Don't say that I tried it and it doesn't work. Say I tried it, I've got to find a little different way to get it in the way that I suggested. So again, what I'm telling you is be creative. And what I've done here basically is taken the previous 4 days and just put on the slide the Monday and Tuesday. You'll see how these will be developed in just a minute, but you can see that what we're doing here is making sure that you have your appointment calendar ready. Okay, now I have my to-do list and got a number of items on it, and it's really not important that you see what those items are right now. Just know that I put a bunch of items on my to-do list, and we're going to go forward using the to-do list that I have. And again, I've broken or taken the to-do list and kind of blown it up a little bit, and you may or may not be able to see it, but the first item is draft Smith lawsuit. Second was review file and Jones motion. Then call attorney on closing, pick up laundry. I happen to put that on my to-do list. Review doctor's deposition. A number of different things that just keep getting added to your to-do list. And most people, if they have a to-do list like that, will go through and they'll cross off the items. But they'll cross them out maybe in the way they put them on there. With no thought of what should take priority to get done on a particular hour, day, or week. So now you have that to-do list, and you'll see a priority over on the other side. So what you're going to think about doing, now is taking the three things that I've said are priority items, those things that'll get you in trouble if you don't do them, those things that are going to cost you money or make you money if you don't do them, and those things that you've got to do for your family. Now, I'm not talking, as I said, about the normal family items. I'm talking about special things that come up. And here, what I've done is gone through my to-do list, and from my to-do list, I have added items in the time slots that were available to me. Now, I forgot to tell you, and I need to make a note of this to go back when I'm talking about the weekly, is to fill in things in the calendar so that you know what is specific and you don't have the ability to alter, if you will. Those are things that are pretty much set for one reason or another. Appointments, depositions, motion hearings, court hearings, closings, whatever, meeting with clients, that type of thing. So you have had those filled in. So now you go back and you take a look at Monday. What do I have open on Monday that I can go back and take my priority list, my priority items off my to-do list? And there he is, the infamous time bandit that steals all that extra time that we should have to complete what we need to do during the day. So what I want to do in the next few moments is give you some hints on some things that you can do that will thwart this time bandit. And when we talk about tips to make you more productive, some of these will be applicable to you, some of them will not. And again, throughout this webinar, and basically through everything I teach, I really want people to get the basics, and if things are working, fine. If they're not working for you, then think outside the box. If you need help thinking outside the box, I'll certainly be glad to discuss these things with you. But the bottom line is, here are some things, try them. If they work, great. If they don't work, try something else. I will bet that you thought you were all done with pop quizzes. You're finished law school, you're out practicing law and done with pop quizzes. But I wanted to put this out because I didn't know this. This was a shocker to me. And I'm studying and learning this to prepare for this webinar and to prepare to help folks with their time, being more productive with their time. I actually learned a lot. And this is a statistic, and it blew my mind, to be totally honest with you. But these are statistics that they've studied, and it basically says it takes about 20 minutes to get back to where you were before you were interrupted, on average, obviously. So basically, so if you're interrupted every 20 minutes, you'll end the day having gotten nothing productive done. Just think about that. So what we really want to do is minimize those interruptions, and we have interruptions all the time. And so now we're going to talk about some of the interruptions and how to prevent them, or at least limit them. I want to talk a little bit about multitasking. And again, this is something that when I studied this and came across this, I want to just throw the slide in there because, task switching, multitasking is very inefficient. Now, this isn't just me saying this. This article was part of an article that was in an Australian lawyers magazine that I get. And basically, they've done studies at Harvard and a bunch of other places about multitasking. And I thought that one sentence there that Harvard University was able to test the IQ of people who continued to write a report while they spoke to someone on the phone, which were probably in some cases most of us. So they studied this and they said your IQ drops to that of an 8-year-old. And they added this little sentence, but I think, so if I can hear my lawyer clicking away on the keyboard while talking to me, I'm getting legal advice from an 8-year-old, and I'm not really happy. Fortunately, probably most of our clients don't know that it happens when you're multitasking, but it's very interesting. I don't know how clear this comes up on the slide, but if you want the full article, send me an email and I'll give you the full article. And it talks about lawyers multitasking. This was primarily directed at lawyers. So I want you to know that I'm not just pulling something, out of thin air. This was studies that they did. What is this person doing? She's got her door closed and she's basically locking it. She's preventing somebody from coming in to her office. And think about this. How many times does somebody just stop by and say, "Hey Jim, you got 10 minutes? I want to chat with you about something." And then the next person comes in and says, "Hey, did you see that hockey game last night?" or whatever. Or what do you think about this and that and all this stuff? And again, this gets back to interruptions. And when you want to be working on your own, make sure that the people around you know that when your door is shut, they do not disturb you. And, if you're in a position where if somebody comes into your office and they're interrupting you and they violated your do not disturb, you need to maybe think of some consequence for doing that. Now, if your boss walks in, that's a whole different story. But if you put a sign or have a sign and it's on the door, do not disturb, and really don't, then maybe some people will get the idea. The You might want to tell your secretary too that you're going to be working and you do not want to be disturbed for any reason whatsoever. If somebody comes up and says, Do you know where Jim is? He says, yes, in his office, and you better not disturb him in there. Okay, so basically you need to let the people know that they better not disturb you. One thing I heard about people coming into the office, if somebody comes into your office and you're sitting there working and you didn't prevent that person obviously from coming in, stand up and meet that person standing up, because they have again done studies that show that this significantly limits the length of the conversation. The old telephone. This is a biggie. And if you want to be more productive, you're going to have to get control of your telephone time. And in studying this, I read a number of articles from lawyers and other people, but primarily from lawyers who had come up with suggestions about how to control the amount of time that they're on the phone. And again, here's the deal. First of all, you need to set up a time like I mentioned earlier, 2 1/2 hour periods where you're going to return phone calls. Okay, and I'm talking return phone calls. I'm not talking about taking phone calls. Now, as lawyers, and I'm going to put out something, and I think if I were sitting in a room and somebody told me this, I would say you're probably crazy. But here is the way you handle it. I would tell my clients that if you have something you want to talk to me about, and it's important, and I hope you're going to call when they're important, first of all, talk to my secretary or my paralegal, because they might be able to help you, because they may have a quicker access to the information than I would. The other thing is you let them know that you are only going to be available to return phone calls, say, from 11 to 11:30 or whatever, and from 4 to 5 or 4:30 to 5, whatever you want to do. This is up to you. Again, the half hour I say is what you should do, but again, there may be some exceptions to it. Now, you tell your secretary that this is what you're going to do. You are not going to take any phone calls from any clients with a possible exception. And that possible exception is when you have a real good client calling you, and obviously hopefully she knows who those good clients are. She's got a list of them, but she doesn't know who they are, and she should. And she can put that phone call through. But here's how you handle this with clients. And you say something like this: well, John, I want to share something with you about phone calls, and I only return my phone calls twice a day. And the reason I do that is if I did it any other time or in any other way, I would be less productive. I wouldn't be getting things done. And when I'm working on somebody else's case, I've got my full attention to that case. Now, if I'm working on your case, would you want me to be taking phone calls and talking to people while I'm trying to get your case prepared for trial or your documents done or whatever? No, and most clients will understand that. But you have to set that out to them. This is when you return phone calls. Get them to talk to the secretary or the paralegal first, and if it's something that they need information on, the secretary can take the note. And what you can do is the secretary should be trained to do this, is to take a note from the person that calls in and says, I need to talk to Jim about this, this, and this. Secretary will then give you that. The other thing you can say to a client, the reason I do this, if you call me and I take your call and you've got a question on a file or something that's going on, then I've got to get my secretary to get the file, bring it to me. I've got to review what the matter is. If I know what you're calling on, if you tell the secretary that you're calling on a particular or for a particular reason, like when can you come in to answer the interrogatories or this type of thing, that's something that the secretary can give to me. And when the client understands that that's why you're doing it, the client is going to want you to give that client the same attention you give everybody else, right? Oh, there's going to be some clients that are a pain, and we all know that, but you have to control the client with regard to the phone. Obviously, the second biggest time waster, the bing, you've got mail, or the notification these days that you got mail. But how do you handle your email? And if you're sitting there working and you hear a bing, do you go to your email right away to check it out? And I will confess, I was never like this. I'm so glad we never had this email stuff when I was practicing. But being retired and having some extra time to do some things, I probably check my email more than I should. But it's kind of therapy for me, fun for me. It's not so much business as it is for you lawyers. But I will tell you, okay, sometimes between 6 o'clock in the morning and noon, I'll get 35 to 40 emails. And I'm not even practicing. But I get emails from a lot of different connections I have with regard to lawyer marketing and what's going on in the legal world and things like that. And that's obviously great because some of those things I can pass on and I can filter them out. I know you guys don't have time to look at all the stuff I get to look at with regard to lawyer marketing and the latest cases and just stuff like that, what lawyers are doing differently. I get to look at that stuff and I get to pass it on to you. So I kind of act as a filtering agent, if you will. But with your email now, getting back to email, what you need to be thinking about doing, and this is very serious, is again limiting your time that you're going to either take phone or make phone calls or check your email. Now, again, depending on your type of practice and a number of different things, try to limit the amount of time you look at emails to two different time periods. In the phone period, you can look at email and the phone. Don't be multitasking. No, we don't want to be the IQ of an 8-year-old. But the bottom line is you can look at the emails at a specific time each day. Now, you trial lawyers and some of the others, it can't be specific times because you may not be in your office 3 or 4 days because you're on trial. But you're going to have to adjust to that, if you will. That's where you're going to have to think outside the box. Now, and obviously in today's world, if you're on trial, you're not going to look at your email. But if you're sitting around waiting for a motion hearing and waiting for the judge or getting your case called, well, obviously you can check your email then if you're in the courthouse and that type of thing. But the bottom line is you are going to have to get control of your time when you are going to specifically sit down and look at your emails. And I'm going to show you something in a little bit I think will help you. But again, you're probably going to have to think outside the box on this, and I'll be glad to help you with it. And since that house isn't available, this is the other house that is available where you can, go and hide out and get a lot of work done. We actually have the internet there. If you do go there, though, you have to man the lighthouse. So there's only 2 beds in the whole place, so you have to make arrangements to get there, and you have to fly into a place called Alexandria Bay and then get a boat over to it, et cetera, et cetera. But if you want to use it, let me know, and I'll be glad to work on it for you. I will readily admit I am probably not the most organized person in the world, and if you'd ever talk to my secretary or my wife, my office doesn't quite look like that. But here's the thing. If you're going to be productive, you need to get organized. And I will say this, just about every lawyer's office I have ever been in is in a state of disorganization, especially trial lawyers. They got file jackets and folders and everything all over the place. The transactional lawyers are probably a little bit better off. But lawyers generally, and maybe that's because we have so much paperwork, and maybe because of the ability now to have so much on the computer, so much in digital form, that this doesn't happen. But just ask yourself this, when was the last time you were looking for something in your office and you couldn't find it, and how long did it take you? And I will just share with you today before I got going, I needed to find a microphone and it was buried under some paper. What did that do? I wasted about 15 minutes. So you're not alone, believe me. And I don't mind sharing that with you to let you know that, hey, I have problems just like you guys do. Well, some of you who tried to answer the question that I put in the email as to what this is and how it is used, only one person actually got it right, got both parts right. But this is such a cool little thing that I really want to share it with you. It's called the Pomodoro technique. And basically what it is, and this has been tested, and people have been using this, and it works. What you do is you divide your what you're doing into a session of 25 minutes. So when the little the little tomato goes off, after 25 minutes, you take a 5-minute break. Then you come in and you start again. A couple of interesting things happen with this. Number one, you begin to play almost a game of beat the clock. How much can I get done in that 25-minute period? I know I got to get things done, and I got to get focused for 25 minutes, and then I get to take a break. It's kind of like you reward yourself at the end of the 25 minutes, and then you go on, come back, start all over again. Is this going to work all the time for you? It may not, but it's there, and it's anything that you have that you can use that will help you in your quest for getting more productive. You certainly want to try. The interesting thing about this is, and other people have used their cell phones and set up their their timer on their cell phone for 25 minutes and this time thing, and it goes off, but it just doesn't have the flavor of having this nice little tomato going on and going off. And the other thing it does is if somebody walks into your office, okay, and they're going to see that sitting on your desk, and they'll probably think you lost your mind, first of all, but they'll kind of, look at it and go, well, what's the deal with this tomato? And you get to explain what it is. And of course, what they're going to ask you, does it work for you? And of course it works for you. And it has made you more productive. Gee, that's really neat. Tell me more about it. And now you've just become the time ambassador for someone else in your office. And maybe it gets passed around, and maybe you got a 10-person office, and all of a sudden you hear these little dings going off every 25 minutes. I'm being a little facetious, obviously, but this is the type of thing. If you come across something that works, share it with other people in your office. Don't be afraid to share things. They may not agree with you. They may say you're full of it. Just like some of you are going to say, hey, Jim, some of the stuff you put out, it really doesn't ring true to me. But you know what? If you help 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 people get more productive in their time, especially if you're in a leadership position in your firm, and you help a young associate to get more productive, how great is that? And especially if that associate's working for you. Again, some of you are probably looking at the slide and saying, what am I trying to get you to join a health club or, start lifting weights? Well, not really. What I'm trying to get across here is to try and get an accountability partner. I talk a lot about that when we're talking about the referral programs and other programs that I do. Get somebody that can keep you on track. One of the most difficult things is to stay on track because so much else comes up and you really want to get to doing some of these things. And if you're the only one that you answer to, some of them I guarantee are not going to get done. But if you have an accountability partner and that accountability partner checks in with you once a day, how did you do on your time? How did you do getting those things done? How did you do this? That's really what's going to help you more than anything else because we know we want to be accountable to people. We want people to notice what we're doing and we want to be able to say, well, Jim, how did you do today on your time? Oh, let me tell you, man, I got so much done today. Or the other thing is, let me tell you, I didn't get much done today, but here's why. And I always tell people, I will accept reasons, but I will not accept excuses. The reason could be, as I mentioned earlier, you know, maybe one of your good clients' kid got put in jail and, you spent 4 hours dealing with that. That's a reason. But I won't accept excuses saying, well, I decided to, go play golf today because it was such a nice day. Or I've had that. And that's fine. That's your business. You can do what you want. But when you have that accountability partner, you have to account to that person. And here's the other thing with an accountability partner. An accountability partner is going to help you when you're down. It's like, if you're working together, and sometimes, and I'm going to be honest with you, you probably will go through 2 or 3 or 4 people before you find the right accountability partner. But if you find that right accountability partner, you're going to zoom. Trust me. And it takes a while to get used to each other and get used to being brutally honest. Now, that accountability partner could be somebody in your law firm. It could be another lawyer that you know. It could even be your spouse if you wanted to do it that way. But the person probably needs to be doing the same thing that you're doing. In other words, another lawyer in your firm or another lawyer that you know, socially, somebody you went to law school with who's working somewhere else, that type of thing. But that's what I want you to really be concentrating on. And when should you start? This old Chinese proverb I really love because it says the best time to plant a tree was when? 20 years ago, right? When's the next best time? Right now. So what we're really saying is, why don't you start tomorrow? Go home tonight, do your to-do list, start. And I will guarantee you, you're not going to do it perfectly. You're going to have probably some questions and maybe you have to go back. And we're going to send out a PDF of this slide, this webinar presentation. And you may have to go back and look at something and tweak it. If you have questions, you have my email address, and I'll be glad to try to answer your questions. And maybe I'll even learn something. Maybe you'll have a question that I haven't even thought about, which I can then incorporate obviously into the next program. What I would hope that you would do would be that you would stop when this webinar is over, and I've hoped that you've taken some notes and go back and look at your notes and say, okay, because I don't know how many times I've gone to webinars, I've gone to conferences, whatever, and I've taken great notes. And you know what happens? I get back, I take those notes, and I throw them in my desk drawer, never to be seen again. So I would hope that maybe for 10 minutes after this webinar ends, you would go back while things are fresh in your mind and take a look at some of the things we've covered, and hopefully then you will begin to start implementing them right now. And one more thing, and obviously, if you've gotten anything out of this program, it's that you need the plan. You need the plan, and then you need to make time for those plans, and obviously the money will come.